What are you drinking, Anthony? It looks like some kind of Coke product.
No, it's a juice.
Is it a juice that's called wine?
No, it's a juice that just so happens to be a grape byproduct.
Of grapes? Fermented grapes?
Yes, it's fermented grapes.
Fermented grapes. I was wondering if this is going to lead into an ad or something that is non-existent for us.
It's going to lead to a nice little joke that I was going to make that it sounded a lot better in my head.
Well, you got to say it now. It's too late.
No, because I was going to set you up, say, hey, John, ask what's in my glass. And you're going to say, what's in your glass? It looks like grape juice. And I was going to say, it is grape juice, John. Fermented grape juice.
Jeez.
And then I was going to go, no, but I understand your confusion, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, gentlefolk, to another beautiful episode of the Ludic Loungecast, as we've been recording this entire time, as John fucked that squeaky chair. I am one of your co-hosts of the evening, Antonicus Maximus IV Esquire, followed, of course, by the one and only, the man from Krypton, John Soares.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap single buildings in a single bound. I screwed up the fucking line. It's me, John.
You fucked up the line, son. The man from Krypton, Johnny.
Keep it. Why did Brando say like Krypton? I want to know why he can't say Krypton.
Because he got paid a lot to just mail in a performance.
And then had fucking Chris Reeve call him out on it on fucking Letterman.
Of course. That's where
Did you ever see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, there was a I would look it up, and I would encourage all our good listeners to look it up. It's like, if you want to see a polite roasting of an actor by another actor, look up Chris Reeve's Letterman interview from around I think sometime in like 78, because that's when the Superman movie first came. But he quite eloquently goes into how disappointed he was in Brando and how he expected better. And even though, he thinks Brando did put in a good performance, it was very obvious he did not give two shits about being Jor-El.
Yeah, I mean, again, by that time, Brando was just like, This is after his Godfather, where I think he just gave his final great performance, and he was just like, I'm done.
That was the last time you think he was invested?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then he dies with an orange. Like that's the final straw on your acting legacy. It's just like, the only time I'm going to care is when I die by pretending to be a monkey with an orange sliced in my mouth.
Well, to be fair, he had like a heart attack, man. Like,
that was onset by fumes from herbicide or something.
Something like that.
It's been a while since I've seen The Godfather, so bear with me.
It's
been a while since I saw The Godfather by Coppola. John sings the hits this week.
There we go.
How you been, buddy?
I've been doing well, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited to talk about some more spooky shit.
The spooky shit is spooky. Keeping with the theme this week, ladies and gentlemen, and all good listeners in between, to keep in the theme of spooky, the spookies, to keep with Anthony's voice choice for the spooky month.
Spooky.
Thank you, Anthony. We are going to get into some horror recommendations later in this episode. Anthony. Horror. Here, we're going to do this bit again. Horror. Call back. It was a call back. Everybody put your hands together for the call back. Call back. Yeah. Call back, the sequel. We're in fine form this week, aren't we?
Absolutely. Call back to Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, I know. And I'm going to just start breakdancing. Give me my cardboard box. I got them in the corner. Sleep in the corner.
But John, what are we doing today?
Well, we're going to go into our usual pop culture breakdown, talk about the things we've been watching, reading, or listening to. And once we get through that, we're also going to go into our top three, respectively, because Anthony and I are at least we hope, have 3. I told Anthony off mic. If you have 3, great. If you don't, that's fine.
That was actually a pretty good assessment.
Yeah. All that matters is that we're here for you, ladies and gentlemen.
And fine folk in and everywhere.
Everywhere in between. I saw the light and I saw all these good folk in front of me.
What is going on?
I don't know. Happening? You tell me.
What is happening?
You tell me. You tell me. Anthony,
one thing
what have you been doing
you
this
should
week?
Tell me about, John, is your experience because a special somebody bought a special Sony VR kit.
Yeah, that's right. Over the weekend, my fiance and I decided to invest in a PlayStation VR headset and everything that came with it.
Because we are VR.
We are. God, that's going to be like an obscure reference for, and I hope he listens to it, our friend Bronson, who knows what VR Troopers was.
Shout out to you.
I hope you're listening, and we miss you. Yeah, we decided to invest in PlayStation VR, and boy, Anthony, let me tell you, it was a lot more complicated to set up that thing than I thought it was going to be.
Give me all the deets, as the kids say nowadays, sir.
Well, we got the bundle that comes with Iron Man VR, so that was the only. Yeah, I haven't cracked that one open yet. And we were originally just trying to go for just the VR headset because I heard some middling things about the Iron Man VR games, so I was just like, I don't know if I want to commit to getting a headset like that. And it was a little. It's about the cost of what I think a console costs about right now anyway, so like a little over $300. We were a little dicey at first because we weren't sure what we were gonna, what was available, and then we looked more into what is available game wise, and we felt a little bit more calm about it. Like from the onset of taking it out of the box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? What comes in the box is the headset, of course. The PlayStation Move controllers, so you get to a pair of those, and those are needed for the majority of the games that you play. Funny enough, doesn't come with any charging ports for the PlayStation Move controllers, so you have to adapt with like the charger cord that comes with like a standard PlayStation controller. So we've been ping ponging off one at a time. I ended up having to bite the bullet on just getting a charging station that is officially licensed by Sony to deal with those things, but I wish it kind of came with those to begin with. Otherwise I'm just like waiting for these things to die, and then I have to charge one at a time because the way you set up the whole setup, the whole VR setup, I should say, it requires an external processing unit.
Really?
So the way it gets set up is that you have a processing unit that you connect your HDMI from your TV cord into. They give you another HDMI cord that you then put into that processor unit and back into the PS4. So it's like it's like how things used to be back in the day where with cable, it's like you have to have the TV line in and then the TV line out and all that crap. It's pretty straightforward for the most part, but it was a lot more than I was expecting it to be. So you plug in the TV, plug it into the PlayStation, and then it has its own separate power that you have to plug it into, and then the HDMI, or I don't even know if I call it an HDMI. The VR connection port, because it's a cable connected to the headset that then plugs into the processor unit, and then you have to add it comes with a camera that you put on top of your TV.
Okay,
and that will monitor everything that you do when you have the headset on and have the Move controllers out. So we got a couple of things and tried a couple different things. Let me pull up a list of.
Well, it sounds like, John, you became a cam girl.
I mean, in so many ways. I mean, if people want to see me jiggle around fighting lightsabers, or fighting robots with lightsabers, then sure, go ahead.
So are you saying you want people to pay you money to watch you jiggle around and play with your lightsaber?
I mean, yes, absolutely. If you would give me all of the money so I can do that, yeah, sure, great. Well, we can talk about it. Anthony, I'm pretty sure you'll be first in line, but
yes,
that's besides the point. So we tried a couple different things. The big hit so far is Beat Saber, and that's I think probably the most well known, I would say, for the VR headset. 'Cause I know I've seen plenty of people play that.
Yeah.
And Chelsea's really head over heels for that one. That's the one she kind of that has her attention more so than any, because it's just a challenge, and I will say that, and anything I'm saying about the headset is it hasn't been, has been said by people who have reviewed VR before. It is really unnerving the first time you have the full reality set up. And I will say, like, my first expectation was that it was going to be like a pure HR, high def reality. Looking into it, like, you would see like no flaws. It doesn't like look 100% crystal clear, but the more your eyes get adjusted to it, the clearer it gets.
Okay.
Like for instance, one of the primary reasons I think we ended up getting it, outside of just pure curiosity, is that Star Wars Squadrons just came out not too long ago.
Yes, bitch.
And I had pre-ordered a copy for myself because I was excited, because it looked, I always appreciated the starfighter portions of the multiplayer Star Wars games, like the original Battlefront back when we were kids, and then the starfighter portions in the newer Battlefront games for this current generation of consoles. You take what you will outside of all the controversy that has come out of Battlefront 2 and whatnot, with like loot boxes and stuff. But I saw you were confused a little bit. No, it's just all that loot crate.
I was wondering to myself if you ever played like the old PC, like a TIE Fighter or X-Wing or any of those from like the mid 90s or so.
Long time, very very little, but I did play them once upon a time, but not really at length.
Okay, because that was one of the things a lot of people are saying about Squadrons. Is that it's kind of akin to those old X-Wing TIE Fighter games. It's like a love story to them, if you will.
With my limited experience with them, and just looking in the memory of my mind's eye, I would agree.
Okay.
And honestly, and I guess this is going to turn into a little bit of a commercial for PlayStation VR. I'm honestly only going to play Squadrons with the VR.
Yeah.
Because no joke, Anthony, it fulfills that dream of just stepping into a starfighter.
Does it kind of feel like, so at like Dave & Buster's, there's the whole like simulated game that you like sit in the whole pod and you have everything like sitting there. Does it kind of feel like that?
To an extent, but better, if that makes sense. It's like it feels like a little bit more, and I'm speaking just from the perspective of playing the game with the headset, with the VR headset. One of the things that I always had frustration with when it came to flight simulator games, be it space or otherwise, is that Spice. Sorry. Capitalism. Spice. That's only for you, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That might be the episode title.
Just Spice. Only for you, buddy.
Spice. One of my frustrations with flight simulators, before I got off track, is that you never had the ability to look around and look to your left or to your right, and in a satisfying way,
right?
Because whenever they put you in the cockpit, you can do that, but it never feels natural with the headset. Even though you're not using like a joystick or a flight stick to move the ship accordingly, and you don't use the PlayStation remove controllers, you use a standard controller to be able to bank left and look around my shoulder to see if there's a TIE fighter on me is pretty handy.
Yeah.
And just be able to naturally look around is the thing I wanted most out of a flight simulator. And to speak of Squadrons itself, I'm only so far into the story, and it's another one of those, post Jedi, pre-Force Awakens stories where, at the end of the day, we all know it's not really going to matter to the overall mythos as much, but it's really the experience that matters.
Right.
I do feel like they've captured what it means to be just a grunt, a flight jockey in the rebellion, in the Rebel Alliance. And your boy Wedge comes in clutch.
Yes.
Second mission, and it is the original actor whose name is unfortunately escaping me, Anthony, being the Wedge lover. Do you have that on hand?
Of course I do, John. Of course I do. Why wouldn't I have Wedge Antilles' actor's name on just the tip of my tongue? Because I love
Dennis Lawson, Anthony?
So much.
Dennis Lawson.
I love Dennis Lawson so much just because of his portrayal of the best, hands down, Star Wars character in this entire saga.
I mean, that is a debatable question, Anthony, and that might be something we do in a top 5 Star Wars characters episode that we end up doing at some point.
I gotta pause.
Okay.
So Dennis Lawson,
who Anthony knew off the top of his head,
and did not have to look it up on Wikipedia.
Did not have to look it up
or anything of that.
Not even the slightest. He's honestly really great in the Squadrons. His voice hasn't changed whatsoever. It doesn't seem like, because you're playing with a Wedge that's, I think, 5 years post Jedi, so he's still youngish.
He's like in his 30s probably by that time, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, because Luke is 18 in the first Star Wars.
Right.
And then I think it's another 5 years or so between the original Star Wars and Empire. So Luke's probably in his 20s. So I would put Wedge in late 20s, early 30s. And then
it just sounds about right. Because by the time we get to the last Skywalker film, he's, well in his 50s, something like that.
Yeah, well, I think it's more real time to what the actor's age is, but
yeah, fair enough.
With the exception of Harrison Ford, because it's Harrison Ford. He wants to be young forever. That's why he's still trying to make a 5th Indiana Jones movie. But I'm off topic. PlayStation VR.
Yes, we are VR.
Landing the plane. We are VR. Landing the plane in VR, which I did in space. Except it's not a plane; it's a starfighter. And Squadrons will alternate between Empire and Rebel Alliance. I've only done the Empire parts in the prologue.
Okay.
But I haven't done anything else since so far. And everything I'm talking about is still pretty early in the story. So there's not it's mild spoilers at best. Nothing really specific. And everybody figured Wedge is going to be in it. He's in the marketing. So deal with it. But honestly, I would say if you have the coin, invest in the VR, because for Squadrons alone, it was entirely worth it. And then I played Vader Immortal, and that was if I recall correctly, Vader Immortal was part of a Oculus Rift project, so it was something that was released periodically for the Oculus Rift and then made its way to PlayStation. So it's a little bit glitchy. It was a little bit glitchy here and there. It wasn't the smoothest at times. And that's the other thing about the VR setup, is that you have to be very careful on where you are in relation to the camera. Because the moment you're off the camera, the sensors get twonky, wonky, whatever you want to call it.
So once your Oculus Rifts.
Oh, God, file that.
No,
file that right now.
That was a good one.
That was not a good one.
That was a good one.
That was a bad one.
No, that was a good one.
That was a bad one. That was an absolute bad one. Jesus Christ.
We will know, but I understand your confusion, and we will agree to disagree.
Fair enough. But Vader Immortal, it was worth it alone just to get a lightsaber and do Force shit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly about it. Story-wise, it's you could beat all of this stuff I like the straight up VR design stuff, like Vader Immortal, Batman VR or Batman Arkham VR, I should say, which I'll get to in a moment. If you put in the time, you can just beat them in like an afternoon. But I mean, the replay value in Vader Immortal is doing the lightsaber dojos. And the way the game is broken up is weird because they break it up into 3 different episodes that are treated as individual games on your PlayStation.
Okay.
And each lightsaber dojo is a little bit different, in each one. So like the episode 3 of Vader Immortal has the most, I think, robust lightsaber dojo because you can, force grab a blaster or a thermal detonator and dual wield lightsabers.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, I was all over that shit.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I had purple lightsabers. I felt like Revan. It was great.
Oh, nicely done, sir. Nicely done.
Yes, that's what I'm here for. And it hurt my damn arms. I was tired.
I can imagine, man. Like literally, because if you're in that scene, your mindset is like, "Holy shit, I am the one wielding these lightsabers." So you're gonna go all out.
Yeah, and you can get spooked pretty easily because what Chelsea likes to do is sneak up on me and just touch me and go bah, and I'm so in the moment and so into the reality that I'm viewing, it's just like, oh no, there is something here, oh shit, and I got a little cranky and I had to apologize to her because it was just like
yeah, you can't do that stuff, man. You gotta apologize.
I know it was just in the moment. I was just like freaked the fuck out. So it's like I didn't think it was just pure flight or flight moment because she did that while a Rancor was trying to attack me.
Oh, so you were in the heat of a moment.
Yeah, I was in full flight or flight mode, and then something touched me. I'm just like, oh, fuck this shit.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Mm-hmm. No thanks.
Now, John, tell me. God damn it. I'm trying to transition, John. So why don't you tell me about Arkham VR, John?
Honestly, so far that's been the least the least enjoyable game I've done on the VR so far.
Oh, that's sad. You don't get to like snap the neck of a bad dude.
You're half right and you're half wrong, actually. Oh. The premise is that it's set in the Batman Arkham games, so it is Kevin Conroy doing Batman's voice.
Hell yeah.
But it's set between Arkham City and Arkham Knight. And spoilers, one of the major topic points of Arkham Knight is that Batman is infected with the Joker's blood, and it's slowly turning Batman into the Joker.
Wow, that's a spoiler.
Yeah. And it's a game that's been out for 5 years. If you haven't played it by now, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, John.
But
I'm playing it anyway.
I don't have to. You would have just watched me play it.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly,
I mean, if I was an active Twitch person, you would be waiting to see, oh, what's John going to do tonight?
Yeah, that I would be your number one fan.
Yes, you are. You already are.
Yeah,
I'm yours. So two great friends, they love friends together. Now, I don't know what the song is. Back to VR talk.
Back to VR talk.
So, Arkham VR is purely investigative. So it's leaning into you are Batman investigating shit.
I mean, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, and you have to investigate Nightwing's murder.
Oh,
yeah, and then it turns out that it's all just Joker blood hallucination.
Oh, that's a shitty cop out.
Yeah, well, and that's why I feel I told Chelsea this after I beat it, because you can go through the story of Arkham VR within an hour, because it's just Batman following the investigation, trying to find Nightwing and Robin,
gotcha.
and then it turns into it's Bruce's worst nightmare of I'm turning into the Joker, and that is one of the conceits of Arkham Knight is that he has to wrestle with the fact that the Joker is living inside his head in a way and is slowly turning him into him meeting Batman into the Joker. And that is the worst thing anyone could have out in the world, because if there is a unhinged Batman, that means everybody's doomed.
Oh yeah, and fuck all that.
Yeah, it would be a disaster. But I feel like even though Arkham VR is designed by Rocksteady, who did all of the main Arkham games,
they began to rock, steady, rock into the break of dawn.
Wow, I love you, buddy, but damn, that was a deep cut.
That was a deep ass cut, wasn't it?
Deep cut. My dad would appreciate it.
John, we both know your dad doesn't listen to this.
Well, he doesn't know how to listen to podcasts. That's the thing.
Very true. That is very true.
One of these days, I'll teach him how to do it, but today it is not that day, unfortunately. One day, probably soon, probably this weekend. Who knows? I appreciate that the game was developed by Rocksteady, so it's the game folks who know Batman the best at this point in some ways, even though I have really mixed feelings on Arkham Knight, if only because it's stuff I'm very familiar with, so It just didn't seem very new and innovative to me like Arkham Asylum or Arkham City did.
Right.
And I just felt like Arkham VR was just a glorified commercial for Arkham Knight. That's just the thing. As cool as it was to do investigative stuff and to go around that version of the Batcave. There's Riddler stuff I can do, but it's just I'm in VR, Batman. Riddle me this. What has no point but all the emphasis? This joke.
Oh, my man.
I only do that for you.
I know. I love it so fucking much.
I know.
Every time. Gets me every time.
So there's a lot of Riddler stuff that I would still need to do, but I honestly don't really have any of the desire to do it. I'd rather just go on to something else more fulfilling, like Squadrons. We've talked about it before, Star Trek Bridge Crew, which I tried playing. I tried playing it without the VR, and it was tricky. I'm very excited I'm very excited to see what it would be like doing it with the VR proper and the Move controllers, and seeing if that works a little bit better. Because I honestly got really, really frustrated just playing it without the VR headset and on controllers. It just felt clunky.
Yeah, it does not feel smooth at all, and it sucks. So you'll be right in the middle, and like a Borg cube will just jump out of nowhere, and you're like, "Holy shit, man! I need to engage the warp core and get my ass out of here." Nope, because you have to make sure that you're clicking the left thumbstick to go left on your command console, and then all this time the Borg cube is just wrecking you.
Yeah, so I'd rather just do that with the headset and be able to react a little bit faster than I could on a standard controller. And I'd rather do something like No Man's Sky, which, even though No Man's Sky has its own share of criticisms that they've worked to try and address in subsequent updates, it feels a little bit more satisfying than just trying to find, whatever Riddler controller or Riddler trophy is in Arkham VR, when, I could just do the same thing in one of the Arkham games proper and feel a little bit more satisfied. I will say that I did have a moment when, because you suit up, there's a moment where you, in the very opening, you do the full suit up sequence, and that was crazy, because they present you the mask and you have to flip on flip the mask around to put it on proper, and it's just it was a moment. It was a moment.
But John, I didn't get to have suitcase Iron Man, where you just like pull the suit out of a suitcase.
I will have to check that and report back, because honestly, I have not popped in Iron Man VR yet. I have not, even though it came with the whole VR setup, I have not tried it yet, because I was honestly more excited for Squadrons and whatever else we could find for the VR stuff. But beyond VR, I did beat Shadow of the Colossus, Anthony.
Ooh,
yes, I am very that game is is, I want to say, frustrating in that I wish they gave me more information as to what is going on and why these people did what they did. I was like, why is this woman's soul gone? Why is she sacrificed? Why do I have to? Why is this ritual of killing the Colossi the thing that saved her? And I know that the Colossi thing was all bullshit now, because and it had I will say Shadow of the Colossus had the most bullshit final boss in the final Colossi. It was frustrating as hell. It took me forever.
Oh, really?
Well, in part because it was the controls. And I think and we talked last week on how about the state of remasters versus remakes. I wish that in this case, as beautiful as the game looks, giving it that HD. Well, they remastered it for PS3, so they already did kind of some of the work. But I wish they put in some work in making the controls feel a little bit smoother, because there were times in the final boss fight when you needed to do more elaborate jumping, from one place to another. To you're grabbing on one place, you have to jump to another thing right immediately behind you and then grab it. It was the final boss required that a lot, and I just couldn't make the jumps, and it was just a lot of repeating the same shit over and over, because I would just keep falling and have to reset in order to just get to the place I needed to get in order to beat the damn boss. And I'm saying a lot again. That's just a personal irritation of mine now. Story-wise, you get more. You learn that the entity that told you to destroy the Colossi, Dorman, was just using you as a way to unleash itself. So the Colossi are its own prison. It's divided between all of these entities, and the more that they get destroyed, the more free Dorman gets. And there's a group of soldiers and I guess a priest that show up to stop the main character from doing what he's doing with the Colossi. And it I guess it's a Studio Ghibli ending where it's a little bit vague and you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I kind of have always heard about that, is that they leave it so like you're supposed to artistically interpret what the ending means or some bullshit like that. I mean,
I don't even what my frustration is I feel like I have enough information to do that. And that's what gets me. As I enjoyed playing the game and I enjoyed the solemnness of it, and not having to deal with like enemies popping up outside of the boss fights of the Colossi. But it's just I just wish I had more context and more reason to care about why things are happening the way they're happening. It's like, and maybe I feel like that's the wrong thing to do, because I'm just asking for the creators to over-explain and hold my hand, and I need to do more research into what the symbolism of the game means, if any, things that I overlooked, so I can get a better understanding. But for right now, I feel very frustrated by it, because it's just, well, the ending happened the way it did, and I just don't know what it means. I don't know what any of the why things happen the way they did, why some people survived the way they did, and why things needed to be sealed off the way they were. It's just and
yeah,
I just wish I had more. I'm circling around, so we should probably move on. I wish I had more information, and that's about it. I think the real value in the game comes from replaying it, because you just unlock stuff and you do time challenges, and can you beat 16 Colossi in 5 hours, that kind of thing. But I mean, I think at some point I would go back to it again, just if I wanted to replay it. and do new game plus and all that stuff. But for right now, I need to sit back and try and digest it more. And I would still recommend everybody play it, and including you, Anthony. I know you said you had a copy, but and maybe that's something we can, if you ever get around to getting to it, we can pick at it again and see if we could figure out what the hell it all means.
There we go. But one thing I'd like to tell you that actually means something to me, John.
Yes, Anthony, please.
Is that I can't wait because I just had my second of 2 Dresden books come into the mail.
Ooh.
So
Can we make this announcement now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Make it, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen and gentle folk, we are going to be doing something special to us. Anthony and I are big fans of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files, a series of urban fantasy novels starring private investigator wizard Harry Dresden. It's been a long time.
Dresden.
Thank you, Anthony. It's been a while since we've gotten new Dresden books, Anthony. Due in part to some various personal things that came up for Mr. Butcher. But this year we got not one, but 2 Dresden novels because Jim's been busy. So he decided to pull a Marvel Studios and give us a 2-parter.
Yeah, which I thought was weird. I'll have to dive into the books just to see. But I'm thinking, why didn't you just release one giant novel?
It's not everybody's Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Which is another, I think, long-term thing that we'll get to at some point. But that requires a lot more bandwidth than either of us have at the moment.
A lot more bandwidth for sure.
But what we do have bandwidth for right now is that we, in the near future, good listeners, are going to give you a nice overview of the Dresden Files. We're going to give people, our listeners, a easy to digest overview on what has happened in the Dresden Files, to give you a little taste, a soupçon, if you will, get you interested in the books, and give you enough information so that when Anthony and I talk about the 2 new books, you're not completely lost. And those 2 new books are Peace Talks and Battlegrounds. Available at a fine bookseller near you. So support your local booksellers. Just don't jump immediately to Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Try and give the mom and pop places a little bit of help because
because that's exactly what I did, John.
When you can. Sometimes it's a little bit trickier to rely on, the smaller places, and the big name brands are built to kind of just be efficient. But if you are in a position and you know of a store that you can reasonably patronage with your hard-earned money for books, please go ahead and do it.
Yes, and a lot of times these brick and mortar stores, ladies and gentlemen, and all the fine folk in between, a lot of times, even if they don't have it in stock, they're more than willing to special order it for you. It may take more time. But again, if you're trying to save the small business, the mom and pop bookshops, because there's really not a lot of those in this world anymore, we recommend you do that. However, we know it's a pandemic and not many people want to go outside and into the world, which we respect wholeheartedly. So doing it the Amazon or any other .com book salesman way is definitely a good idea. Or you can get the audiobook version, which is always fantastic.
And the Dresden Files is known very well for the quality of its audiobooks.
Oh, wholeheartedly.
For you Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans out there, Spike himself, James Marsden, is primarily the narrator of all of the Dresden Files books.
All but one, and it was odd.
Yeah, because he really defines Harry's voice. And it's honestly, he's how I picture Harry to sound, but not how I picture Harry to look. And I will give you that surprise, Anthony, when we talk about the Dresden Files in full. Because I have a very specific look for how I picture Harry.
All right. Fair enough. And one thing, John, a particular thing that I have a picture how it looks is the games that I'm playing this week are, I'm still chugging away at Valkyria Chronicles 4. Still very good, still very excellent. I'm very much enjoying the story. It's your stereotypical JRPG with the World War II twist to it that I talked about many episodes ago.
That is correct.
It got to a point where one of your squads that are in your army just completely gets wiped out, and it's not like a choice that you made it happen like that. It just their narrative completely wipes them out, and so there's some reshuffling of characters, and the game is now getting a lot more sinister. So I'm very excited to see how this goes down.
Ooh, like
Yes.
like Murder She Wrote Sinister.
No, not Murder She Wrote Sinister, John. Not at all. I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of Richard Levison now, which is a name that I love now because I love Columbo.
Yes, our Columbo Files fans will understand what we're getting at.
Yes, all two of them. And but John,
don't you dare put that evil on us.
Yeah, fair enough. I am enjoying the game. I did have to cancel my Xbox Game Pass subscription, mainly due to because of the fact that I'm going to be upgrading to PS5, and I don't want to be paying $15 a month if I'm just going to be upgrading to the PS5 and making that my mainstay as far as consoles go.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, with the PlayStation Plus service, they're making it so that you have all of their PlayStation classics are going to be available for download in a Game Pass style format.
Right.
So I imagine, because I mean, they already tried with PlayStation Now, which
but it doesn't hold a candle compared to the Xbox Game Pass, John. The Xbox Game Pass, honestly, for those.
Can you talk about it a little bit? Because I'm not really familiar with it.
So essentially, the premise is literally it's a Netflix subscription. So you pay $15 a month.
Okay.
And then you have this vast array of like 150 plus games that you can download straight onto your console and play like you physically own them.
So it's in other words, it's a download service.
Yeah, it's essentially just a download service. You download the game in its entirety. The only thing I have against it is kind of like Netflix, except it happens more quicker. Wow, that's not a way to use grammar. It happens more frequently that they take games off very quickly off Game Pass. Very quickly. So you'll be like drenched into a game, and then like by the next month, because again, I don't have time to play 24 hours a day for video games. I'm lucky if I get a couple hours a day at this point.
Right.
But you'll get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, cool, I'm invested in this game, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, you better play it while it lasts because next month it's gone. And you're like, well, that sucks because I'm going to maybe not even put a halfway dent in this mark by the time it's gone. But other than that, honestly, that's my only complaint with it. It is a great platform. It is a great service. And if they could, I don't know if they're also doing it for PC, but I would imagine if they are. And they have plans on expanding it to Xbox Series X or whatever the new Xbox is called.
Right.
Because
my understanding of PlayStation Now was that it was more in line of what a media streaming service like a Netflix or a Hulu is, where it is you're not downloading the games, you're just streaming the game.
Possibly. I didn't go for the PS Now subscription just because, quite honestly, John, a lot of the games on there's a lot of first-party games, but like the third-party games that are on there are just garbage. They're not really worth a lot. There's not as much of a vast library as the Xbox. The Xbox has all of its, all of its first-party games. So your Gears of War, your Halo, all of those. Well, now Obsidian games and Bethesda, right. I would imagine coming up for the next generation of consoles. But it also has games all the way dating back from the original, OG Xbox. So your KOTOR, KOTOR 2, etc. And it also, and it also, you have a lot of third-party games, like Wastelanders is one I was playing. A lot of the Final Fantasies are on there. Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 15. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of third-party games that would actually look semi-decent. And the games that drop on there, like, because monthly they try to add new games to it. The games that drop on there monthly aren't exactly like, oh, this game came out 7 years ago and it has no acclaim. Like, it's pretty frequent. Like, it came out within the last year or so.
Okay. Huh.
So it is an ultimate deal, especially for those that don't want to shell out $60 for a game that might be halfway decent, whereas you pay $15 a month and you have literally like 150 plus titles available.
It's more bang for your buck.
Yeah, you definitely get more bang in your buck. So I like that system of doing it because that's how we're advancing as a society now, the way we intake our media. But
yeah,
So I'm hoping with the PlayStation 5, they're doing the whole, the PlayStation Classics that they're making available
Right.
like day one, essentially, which I'm super glad for. But I'm hoping their PS Now, quote unquote, whatever that looks like, takes more of an approach of what Xbox is doing, and they kind of piggyback off of that and catch up to the point where it's like, oh, sweet, yeah, I'll pay $9 a month or $10 a month, $15 a month to have literally all of these titles, so I'm not having to spend
Yeah.
$70 for a title.
Yeah,
My concern isn't going to be good.
My concern was, when I tried PlayStation Now when it first rolled out, and maybe that's part of the problem, but I tried, and this was before they did the remaster of the first two Arkham games. I tried to stream over PlayStation Now the Arkham City, and I swear to God, it was the most pain in the ass thing because my internet just wasn't strong enough to stream that much.
Right. And that's, again, I'm not familiar, but if that's the case, yeah, with Xbox, it's completely different, John. You literally just download it like you just purchased it digitally. You download it, you wait a few hours or however long it takes, and then boom, you literally are playing it like you own it.
Yeah, and that's honestly the more appealing format to me. And if they don't do that now, I imagine that's something that they're going to be doing pretty soon.
One would hope. I mean, because again, Xbox is not necessarily, they're not trying to sell hardware anymore, which is why they were able to sell the new digital only Xbox like $100 or $200 cheaper than the digital only PS5 to some reports.
Yeah.
But they're not in the business of selling hardware anymore. They're trying to get this whole software to where they're doing like the game passes and all of these other things to where you're purchasing the software and they don't really give a shit where you're playing it on, whether it be PC, an actual physical Xbox, whatever have you.
And that's what you mean by them not really caring about the hardware, because they know that somebody's there, that there's two different avenues to pursue players, both either in Xbox or as PC gamers. So it's whether or not they're playing on one over the other doesn't matter. It's that they're trying to access both of those markets.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if let's say the new, I don't have the price off the top of my head, but the new digital only Xbox is $300. Okay, that's fine. But if you're paying $15 a month for the Game Pass, that's $170 in a year. I'm guessing. Obviously, I don't want to do the math. That's $170. So within 2 years, you're going to make pretty close to what you're paying for just the console, right? Yeah. And that's just with one person. So you think that
100,000 people doing that,
exactly, you're going to make your money
much more valuable.
Oh yeah, because they're already losing money with consoles like Sony, Xbox. They don't make as much money on these consoles. There's not as much of a markup as a lot of people would think. So with Microsoft, they're like, well, screw this. If we can just sell the software aspect on it, which is almost 100% profit minus what they would have to pay for like third-party games and stuff like that for the licensing,
or vendors to actually make the console itself.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's probably just pennies on the dollar of the amount of actually putting all 100% of their creative avenue in just the console selling itself. So I think ultimately that's how Microsoft's going to come ahead in this next upcoming system war, if you could even call it that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the nature of the upcoming generation. We just don't know what exactly is going to come out of it, right?
Well, if you think about it, it comes in cycles, right? So with the 360 era, the 360 completely oversmashed the PS3. I don't have numbers, so I could be wrong, but just in the public perception and from a lot of the media I'm ingesting that talk about these items with great depth, they're saying 360 smashed, no pun intended, the PS3, and then PS4 overtook the Xbox One, this console.
Yeah, I mean, with the 360, you had the creation of the online multiplayer through Xbox Live, and I think Sony's biggest bungle back in the PS3 days was that I think people didn't feel comfortable going to PlayStation and Sony because they had that data hack. And that security breach. So it's just like, well, we can't really trust Sony to be an online gamer friendly place like it seems Microsoft is with 360. And then Xbox shot themselves in the foot when it came to this current generation with the whole perception on how you play games.
Yeah, and my thing about talking about the 360, not only what you're speaking of runs true, John, But also a lot of the PlayStation, this was the era of that era, meaning the PS3 and the 360. That was the era of multiplayer shooters. If you think the mid 2000s, your Gears of War, your Halos, like that was your multiplayer Xbox Live peak. And PlayStation, I mean, they were putting out their first party games like Last of Us and all of those, which is great. Uncharted, exactly, which are great and had some sort of a multiplayer attached to it, but it wasn't like a driving force like Halo, the Call of Duties, which were on the PlayStation. But again, at that point, everyone had the 360 playing multiplayer, so everybody got like your Call of Duties and such for it.
Yeah, with the exception of Halo, because I think Xbox is just like, that's our guy. We're not sharing him.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But no, video games, exciting times.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exciting times. So, Anthony, do you have anything else you would like to talk about to the people?
No, not at all. I'm ready to transition to some spooky stuff, John.
This is a spooky transition. It is I, Count John Dracula. Hello, I'm here to do the spooky talks.
Count Johncula?
Count Johncula. I'm Count Johncula. Would you like to see my Johncula?
Oh, file that one. That was bad.
I would like to take that back.
Excellent.
I would like to take that back. Okay, so we're going to keep it a little bit loosey-goosey here. Anthony, do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
John, why don't you go first? Because I know you already have your list, and mine, I'm in between a couple, so I'm going to make my final decision, obviously, on the fly.
Well, mine's going to be a little bit more, and this is just because this is where my interests tend to lie. I'm going to be a little bit more book heavy. I'd like to talk about another book series. That's not that. We already name dropped the Dresden Files, and that's horror fantasy ish. A series I discovered in college. It's another urban fantasy novel, but fantasy and horror kind of walk hand in hand, especially when you're dealing with weird magic shit.
Right.
I'd like to talk about the Sandman Slim series by Richard Cadre.
Oh, nicely done.
Yeah. I know I recommended the books to you, Anthony. I know
I've read a good chunk of them, I believe. I'm over halfway through the series if I'm doing my math right.
There's one more book coming, and then the series is going to be wrapping, I think, within the next year or two. So rounding out about 12 books.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like I felt like, again, I can't remember where I left off on, but the book I left off on, I'm like, they can't really be doing much more at this point.
Yeah, I feel like in part that's because the writer is just getting to the point where he's running out of willingness to keep doing these, because at a certain point I feel like he's just chugging along.
It's literally the Supernatural effect, the TV Supernatural effect.
And I don't want to compare it to Dresden, but I feel like the Dresden Files was able to avoid that that issue that at least Supernatural is having. I mean, I reserve the ability to change that based off of the next book or so.
Sure.
But I also feel that Jim Butcher's also getting close to some kind of end story for Dresden as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of books out there with it.
And he was one of those, early guys doing the urban fantasy stuff. I mean, that's in part why Sandman Slim appealed to me, because it did remind me of Dresden in a way, but it's not doing the same things that the Dresden Files does.
No.
Sandman Slim is the story about a young man named James Stark, who is a wizard in some regard. There's more to it than that, but I would rather you read the stories to figure that out. He is called Sandman Slim because he is tricked into hell by some friends of his, and while in hell, he becomes a monster hitman, essentially. Not a hitman that kills monsters. He is literally considered a monster by the denizens of hell. So much so that they give him a moniker called Sandman Slim, and he is somebody who is feared in hell. And then he finds a way back to the earthly realm to seek vengeance on the people who sent him to hell, but in the process of doing that, also killed the woman that he loves, which, in hindsight, that's something that, I've had to deal with in multiple media where it is, the fridging of a female lead or female character just so that the main male character can have some kind of motivation to move the story along.
Right.
And that's just due in part to me just now realizing, oh wait, that is a fridging. And me being a younger man and not really seeing necessarily the problems of that.
Right.
Anthony, are you familiar with the term fridging?
Barely, honestly, but John, why don't you explain it for our loyal listeners at home as well as myself?
Well, for everybody who is unfamiliar with the term, comic book writer Gail Simone came up with the term fridging, and it was in relation to an early Kyle Rayner era Green Lantern comic where the main character, Green Lantern, it's the newest Green Lantern. His girlfriend, he has a girlfriend. I honestly can't remember her name, in part because I've never read the comic per se, but the nature of how that issue is written is that it ultimately doesn't really matter what her name is, because it's just they're not concerned with her as a person or a character. They're more concerned with her in relation to what she means to Kyle, and she ends up being killed by the main nemesis of Green Lantern in that particular story in order to motivate him into revenge and the big hero moment where he learns something important and blah 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 blah. And this happens repeatedly throughout comic book media. It goes you can even go back to, I think, Gwen Stacy back in the 60s is the most notable early example of a fridging. I don't think with her being a Spider-Woman now, I don't think we'll ever see the Gwen Stacy murder ever again.
No, I doubt
it. Especially when you think about Gwen in relation to Miles and how they are now positioned as a romantic couple in some regard.
And yeah.
So I mean, I would say you're more likely to see Gwen Stacy as a younger person in relation to Miles than she will be to Peter again. But I'm getting, besides the point, and off topic from Sandman Slim. So Sandman Slim, it's a great, it's a mix of, I would say, Raymond Chandler novels, private eye novels, and more violent type of horror movies. Richard Cadre he's a film buff. He's a photographer. He talks about LA a lot because that's where the books take place. So it's about LA and the scene as kind of like this proto hell, and in some ways, and it being a bad thing, but in some ways, the cutthroat nature of it is also what makes it fun. And why not just sit back and enjoy the chaos, just because there's nothing we can do about that. They're really fun. They're really fun books. Action heavy, great mysteries, great character stuff with Stark and his group of friends. As these types of urban fantasy stories are wont to do, they will end up creating a cadre of from cadre. I tickle myself with my play on words, and I hope I made them right.
That was actually I enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it myself. Urban fantasy stuff like that, they tend to just circle around a group of individuals that are following a particular main character or number of main characters. If you're a fan of Buffy or Supernatural or horror or mystery, it's honestly a great place to start with urban fantasy, and it's going to have a dedicated endpoint, at least within the next. I don't know when the next book is coming, but I know it's coming. But it's been one of my favorites since I got introduced to it in a college English class on Popular Lit, and I never would have found it without that. And it makes me, I got it from a teacher I had greatly respected and worked with a lot, so it always reminds me of him. And I honestly, I couldn't recommend it any higher. Anthony, what you got?
So, John, I am going to shift gears from the physical media into the multimedia, and I'm going to talk about a game that both these games that I have for a spooky time, I have barely, if at all, put any time in them because they are too spooky. Which, on the forefront, I've already warned you all who listen to this, my loyal listeners. I am a giant
big old
baby. I'm a big ass baby when it comes to the horror genre.
Big old baby.
I will say that Resident Evil 4 holds a special spooky place in my heart. And we've told that story about how it scared the living daylights out of you and I, John. So we won't go into that again. But it's very spooky.
We would point you back to our episode where we go into that story in depth.
Yes, most definitely.
In all honesty, just listen to all the Ludic Loungecast and just drop us a line. Let us know what you think.
There you go, shameless plug.
Exactly.
And
continue.
Since I already have the floor, I'm going to just drop my second one since I only conjure up two of them, John. And that's going to be the video game Dead Space.
Ooh, that's a good pill.
Yeah, because it is spooky as hell. I did not get anywhere near how far you got in this game, John. But
yeah,
what I will say, I will say, again, this is in the era of the 360. This is the era where Resident Evil 4 lived and thrived, as did Dead Space. And essentially, there's the mysterious vehicle in space, in which you have to explore the missing crew or try to find the missing crew. It's got a lot of like the 1979 Alien.
Yeah, it is very much Alien vibes. And the one thing that I appreciated about Dead Space is that you're not coming into it as a soldier. Your main character is an engineer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if Scotty gets dropped into this spooky ass environment with nothing but his wits and his gumption, essentially, and tries to figure out what the hell's going on while multiple aliens, multiple just weird shit is attacking you. Yeah,
it's honestly one of that first game especially is one of the scariest things you can play, because between Dead Space to Dead Space 2 is the whole Alien to Aliens.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And it just I think it lost something a little bit between the two, even though I like those. I never played 3, but I do like 1 and 2, but for very different reasons.
Right. Exactly. Just like I like Alien and Aliens, right? Because again, they bring different things into the mythos. They bring different things to the table. But ultimately, the first Dead Space, which I can't even say if I put an hour in, John, it scared the living daylights out of me.
You want to know one of my favorite stories about Dead Space is?
Please tell.
One of our friends, Ryan, he told us a story about his younger brother playing Dead Space, and his brother would play it on like the hardest difficulty, which means, and the way Dead Space worked would be that I'm going to talk a little bit about like one of the level designs. It's not the case for the whole game, but one of the things that it would do is that the necromorphs, the aliens of the game, would pop out of vents.
Yeah.
And the higher the difficulty you put it on, the more vents blew. So when that happened, you didn't necessarily know which one they're coming out of.
Fuck all that.
And Ryan, so I remember Ryan telling us that he came in and watched his brother in a part like that, and all of this noise is happening, and it's pure chaos, and it's monsters, and his brother just turns to him and just says, "I'm so fucking terrified right now."
Yeah, seriously, I don't blame him, man. Like, again, it gave you a lot of it reminded me so much of that first Alien movie that you just so happened to share with me, John, that I just, no, thank you. So those are my two as spookies, John. So why don't you round out this episode by giving us some of your final thoughts on your spookies?
One is spookies, and this is more, it's going to turn into a little bit more of a conceptual thing, but I'm going to point to a specific thing that I like. I like werewolves. Do you like werewolves, Anthony? I mean,
sure.
I just love a good fucking werewolf movie.
Yeah, they're wolfy, they're wary. Like, yeah, I get it.
Or just like a good like werewolf novel. I just feel like Frankenstein and Dracula tend to dominate when it comes to, the spooky season and Halloween and, monster talk. It's, and you get the Mummy to an extent, but I think the 90s films dominate what the Mummy is. And it's less a scary thing and more a horny thing with the Mummy now.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, this is why I'm bisexual. Not me specifically. I'm just saying in general. That's what the conversation seems to be. Because Brendan Fraser, very pretty.
Yeah, he was definitely a pretty dude in those.
Oh God. Rachel Weisz, very pretty.
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz.
She totally banged Brendan Fraser.
Now she's with James Bond, and they had a kid.
Perfect. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. But speaking of werewolves and my love of them, there's a novel that I don't think many people know about, and unfortunately, the writer was tragically killed because he was funny enough, or oddly enough, he was an NYPD officer who was killed during an altercation with a suspect. He wrote one novel. His name is Nicholas Picaro, and he wrote a novel that is titled The Wolfman. And honestly, it was a fantastic. I read it, I think, around the time it originally released, and I think he was killed before, like a little bit before the book came out. I think this was around 2007, 2008. I don't know how much traffic the book got, or how much acclaim it got, but it was honestly a very compelling account of one man's journey into what it meant to, live with this disease of being a werewolf.
Right.
It honestly, like, the way I always saw it, and this is based off of like the Universal monster movies, where you had your Draculas, you had your Frankensteins, and then the trifecta of, to round out that trifecta, it's the werewolf, the Wolfman.
Right.
But I never felt satisfied with that OG Wolfman movie from way back when, the old black and white one.
Right.
And Dracula and Frankenstein, at the end of the day, they had source material. And if you didn't like the movies, you can go back to the source material, which was the novels.
Yes.
And there's very clearly one is better than the other, and that, Frankenstein's better than Dracula, but they're both better, and they're both good in their own respective ways. But Wolfman never had that. And, when I came across Picaro's book, that it was the moment I felt that I had found something that met the criteria of what Frankenstein and Dracula the novels gave me, just like this satisfying, scary story that had a little bit more heart to it than just, pure jump scare. And I just want more people to know about it. I think it was a great book, and I think Picaro had, a lot of potential, and unfortunately we'll never get to see what that exactly means. But
right.
It's something that I think everyone would really enjoy, taking a crack at it.
So John, it sounds like you're telling our loyal listeners to engage with some Picaro.
Oh God. A man died, Anthony.
That's not my fault, John.
I know it's not, but Jesus Christ.
No, but I understand your confusion, John.
Oh boy.
I do have an honorable mention that I just thought of that I would like to talk about before we end tonight, John.
Please, by all means.
I would like to give mention to one particular scene in the 1980s beloved cult classic RoboCop, to where there's it's like at the end of the movie, and one of the bad guys gets knocked into some like nuclear waste or toxic waste.
Yeah,
but he's still alive, and he's like, his skin is all droopy, and he's just like walking ever so slowly, and it's so creepy, so spooky. And then Red Foreman just runs his ass over.
Yeah, that's it. We rewatched RoboCop not too long ago, and boy, that particular scene is just, it holds up in a brutally fucked up way.
Doesn't he say like "kill me" like as he's walking?
Yeah, he's just like, he's just asking people just kill me because there's literally no way to save him at all.
Oh God! So that was my final one. I promise.
I have one more actually. I just found it. It's another book that I was given by that professor that taught that popular lit class that I discovered Sandman Slim in. It's a novel called Perfume, the Scent of a Murderer by a German guy named Patrick Zuskind. Only written the one book, and he doesn't do interviews, so he's a weird dude. And this book is weird, but in a fascinating way. It's about this, and it's set in like late 1600s, early 1700s France, and it's about this guy named Grenouille who is literally born without a developed sense of smell to himself. So he has no odor about himself, but he has such a refined nose for scent that he literally kills people to try and create the ultimate scent. His entire life goal is to craft this the perfect smell, the perfect odor to himself that he thinks will then complete himself because he has no odor of his own. And the way it's written is it's hypnotic. It's these long flowing paragraphs that just linger like smells themselves. It's so bizarre but so fascinating. And the reason I bring it up in our spooky talk is that he is a murderer. He does horrible things to horrible people. Not horrible people. They're completely innocent for the most part, but they don't deserve to die the way that they do. And he's just a horrible example of human greed.
Right.
And funny enough, I wrote about it.
I was going to say,
Ludic Lounge.
I was about to plug it, John. I would say for those of you who are more intrigued about what this entails, John wrote a very, very good piece on our Ludic Lounge website, and I implore all of you to go read it because it is very, very fascinating. I learned quite a bit of it, and the way John's style and tempo and writing and exploring these concepts and everything is fascinating within itself outside of the main topic of the essay, if you can call it that.
Yeah, and I also compare this story to a Batman story called Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. So definitely worth the read if you like Batman and weird horror shit.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. Again, not being one for spooky shit myself, I enjoyed the comparison. I enjoyed the writing.
I just realized one more.
Thing.
Just one more thing, folks. I'm sorry to bother you. I'll just do one more thing and then I'll let you go. You've read this book, Anthony. It's actually a graphic novel. And I'm talking about Incognegro.
Oh, that is a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Incognegro is written by an African-American gentleman by the name of Matt Johnson and is drawn by a gentleman named Warren Pleece, among others. I believe he has a couple, there's more people on the art team, but I don't have those written down. But Incognegro is a period piece set, I believe, in the late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, 20s to 30s. It's kind of right in that period.
Yeah. And it's following a white passing African-American journalist who travels to the Deep South to report on Klan murders. And the reason I bring it up, in our spooky talk is that, it's the horror of racism. And it's something that, a significant number of people in this country have to deal with. African-Americans, Latinx folk, trans folk, everybody suffers from this type of hate. And Johnson, as an African American man and a white passing one, from what I recall in his introduction to the graphic novel, really hits home those fears, especially around the time where the Klan is and lynching was still very much in vogue in the South, but still not really known to everybody else across the country. So I read it for the first time a couple years ago, and there's a second Incognegro graphic novel that's a prequel So the first one's called Incognegro, a graphic mystery, and the second book, which is a prequel to the first one, is called Incognegro Renaissance, and involves the first case of the main character, who I'm going to look up their name just because I want to be diligent. Yeah. So Anthony, vamp for me for a second.
Absolutely. So I read this graphic novel for a class in undergrad, which was an English class, which was like essentially analyzing comic books and graphic novels, utilizing modern techniques of something. I can't remember. But essentially, we were analyzing comic books and what they mean to society. And this was brought onto the page because, again, thinking back, I didn't see it as a horror film. But speaking and thinking back on it now with a few more age, and especially during the time we live in, I can definitely make the case for a horror aspect of this graphic novel because I saw it more as a mystery because they are trying to solve a mystery. However, like I said, it just the themes of overt racism and just the stuff that, boy, it does chill you to the bone. So great pull, John.
Yeah, thank you. And the main character is Zane Pinchback, who is a reporter for the New York-based New Holland Herald, and he reports on the crimes that these white people are doing to people of color. So I would, like Anthony said, it is a little bit more mystery than it is horror, but it is the type of horror that unfortunately is a little too commonplace throughout this country's history. And I would highly recommend everybody check out Incognegro and Incognegro Renaissance. So
absolutely, John. Now, John, speaking of things that we recommend, I recommend that you close us out tonight as only you personally can.
I am happy to do so. Good listeners, you have been listening to another episode of the Ludic Loungecast. I have been one of your co-hosts, John Storrs, and on behalf of my podcast brother from another mother, Antonicus Gluteus Maximus IV, we thank you for listening and thank you for lounging with us. Good night, folks.
Bye.
Hello, this is Peter Falk, and you've been listening to the Ludic Loungecast, brought to you by the Ludic Lounge. And just one more thing, be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Ludic Lounge, Antonicus at RojoLoco44, and John at just_John_0891. Or feel free to email us at theludiclounge@gmail.com. Thank you. Thank you very much.